I'm Cynthia Wood, and this is Meals You Can Make. Today we're going to be doing some Asian cuisine, and we're going to start with a really simple little thing. I want to do it now so we can get it out of the way. This is actually dessert. You know me, I like to start with dessert first. If you have chocolate chips at home, or if you have some of the chocolate candy wafers that you can buy at the craft stores, you want to melt some of those. Not too many, depending on how many people you're feeding. And once it's melted, I already started mine. You want to, it should be liquidy but not completely runny. And the thing with chocolate, either kind, chips or the wafers, if it's too hot, it actually starts to harden up again on the bottom of your pan. So what we're going to do is we have fortune cookies. You can buy these in a box in the ethnic food aisle in the grocery store. Or if you order out enough Chinese, you can accumulate them. And what we're going to do is we're just going to dip it into the chocolate. I have a little piece of wax paper. We're going to lay that out so we can sit these on here so they won't stick. We're going to dip half of it in. Try to take the side that's the most closed. Dip that into the melted chocolate. And you want the whole half dipped. So turn it around. Scoop up some of the chocolate like that. And then we're going to dip it right into our little colored beads. And then we're going to sit that on our waxed paper so that can set up. And then we'll do another one. And I have this in a double boiler. The bottom part of the pan is full of water that I boiled. Make sure you don't overfill it because you don't want it to boil up into your chocolate. Now I'm dipping that one, and there we have dessert. And we're going to serve that with some orange sherbet at the end of our meal. But I just wanted to get that out of the way for you. We'll get rid of our double boiler. And now we have another little project that we're going to do. And this is called compound butter. Now, there are a couple of different ways to do this. You can take the butter and put it in a bowl and mush it with your hands and mix in whatever you want to mix in. Or you can do it the way we're going to do it today, and we're just going to roll it in what we're going to add to it. So we just have a regular stick of butter that we're going to use. We're going to use some orange peel. We're going to use some ginger root, which is kind of a funny looking thing, and we're going to use some scallions. Now, we want to mince everything really, really well. So what I have here is a zester, and you can get these at any houseware store. And I washed my orange since we're going to be eating this part. You pull this down. You don't want to push too hard because you don't want the white pith, it's called, on the inside of the skin, because that's bitter. You just want the orange part. So we're just going to peel this down. We need a couple of tablespoons, or teaspoons, excuse me, of this. And it depends on how much butter you're doing. To do a whole stick, we want to coat it. We don't want to make it, thick with this topping. We just want to coat it. And you have to be very careful because for as innocent as this tool looks, it's extremely sharp. And if you have this special little attachment on the side that makes spirals, that's extremely sharp. So please be careful if you're using this, if you're not familiar with them, with the zesters. So I'm going to do the whole outside of this orange, I think. If we have extra topping, we can always just set it aside. My philosophy is it's better to have too much than not enough. So we have our little orange zest. And we'll get rid of that. We'll set our orange aside. We may use that. I'm not sure yet. And now, I'll move my scallions and my butter out of the way. This ginger root is extremely tough. It's very fibrous, so you have to be careful when you're cutting it. I have this knife. It's called a bird's beak. And as you can see, it's kind of shaped like a bird's beak. I'm going to snap this piece off, and these two little. You can buy this in the produce section at the grocery store, too. Maybe I won't be breaking these two. There we go. And sometimes the pieces are very, very large. Don't buy it because it lasts forever. Break a piece off or look for a tiny little nub that's already been broken. So then you want to peel this brown papery skin away. And be very careful, don't hurt yourself, because it is kind of tough. And we're going to mince some of this up, which means we're going to cut it very, very finely. Just try to get this other side peeled. Maybe you'll be able to see, I don't know if the cameras will pick it up, but it is extremely fibrous. Like celery has those long strings in it, ginger is even stringier. So we'll cut a piece off. And maybe I can get a piece to shed a little, and you'll be able to see. And again, maybe not. As you're cutting it at home, though, you'll be able to see. And you want to make sure that you get this in tiny little pieces because ginger can be a little hot, spicy-wise. So you want to make sure that nobody gets, I don't know if you can see this, if that can pick that up, but it's got little fibers sticking out all over the place. But if anybody gets a real big chunk of this, they're going to know it. So we're going to try to do it as tiny as possible. And if you have to go over it a couple of times to get it finely diced or minced, then take the time to do it. There we go. And we're going to mix this with our orange peel. When we're done chopping it up. And we're also going to mince the green part of the scallion, a couple of scallions. So we'll push that to the side. And we're actually going to cut our orange zest up a little bit too. There we go. Get my towel. Okay. Now, take your scallions, cut off the dried end, because you don't want that. And we will start with 2, just to see. And I'm going to slice it lengthwise first. And it doesn't have to be precise, just so that you don't have a real big chunk. And then we're going to mince that. This isn't as bad as the ginger if you get a big piece of it. It's just oniony flavored, but you still wouldn't want it to be too large. There we are. We'll do another one. And then I'm going to show you a little trick to do with the end of the scallion for some decoration. This might be a meal that you'd want to have for company, or if it's just the adults at home, because I don't know, a lot of kids are funny when it comes to fish. Even though they'll eat tuna fish out of a can, they might not like fresh tuna. So this might be something that you want to serve for a special occasion. And we'll do another one. And if this doesn't coat the whole stick of butter, that's okay, because you're really only going to put a little piece or 2 on each fish steak. Fish can be cut into steaks or fillets depending on how it's cut off the bone of the fish. A fillet is cut horizontal to the bone, and a steak is cut straight through. And tuna is actually part of the mackerel family. It's a high-fat fish, but it's still lower in fat than meat. So it's sort of good for you. Now I'll show you this trick with this other scallion. You're going to cut off the root end, not too far up because you want to keep some of the white. Then you're going to cut away the long part. And what you're going to do, I'm actually going to use my smaller knife and leave this flat on here if you can watch. You want to keep it, you could even follow the lines that are in the scallion, but you want to cut lines and cut them through till you don't feel any more resistance, and keep turning it so that you're cutting strips. And this is going to make a scallion brush, and you can use this for garnish, and they're also edible. Now what you do with it is you sink it into iced water and then stick it in the fridge. So you can do this right after you do your dessert. That way it'll be ready when dinner's ready, and it's going to really curl up nicely. So we'll set that aside. We'll look at that later. Okay. Now, we're going to just mix this all together. So we have our orange zest and our fresh minced ginger and our scallions. And we've softened our butter, but we don't want it really, really soft. And then we're going to take another piece of waxed paper so that we can lay this on here, and then we'll be refrigerating this when we're done. So we're going to take our butter and we're going to roll it in this and kind of press down on it so that it picks this stuff up. And this flavor, you could even do this the day before or a couple days before, because the scallions won't, I would say like a day or two before, the scallions won't go bad, the ginger lasts a long time, and the orange zest should be fine too. So if you don't feel like playing with this the night of the dinner party, or if you're short on time, do it ahead of time. We're going to cover the end too. Piece of ginger skin there. You could do this on wax paper if you wanted to keep the mess to a minimum. Trying to get all the orange zest. So this is a compound butter, even though the butter's not squished in with all the ingredients. It's an easier way. And then we're just going to set it on our wax paper, roll it over, and then we'll be sticking this in the refrigerator. Okay, now I'm going to clean my hands off a little, and then we will keep going with our fish. Now, with tuna, well, with any fish really, when you go to the fish counter or fish market, you want to look for fish that is springy to the touch. You don't want to be able to push on it and have it leave a big indentation. It means that the fish is not fresh. You want it to be moist looking, but not real slimy looking. You just want it to look not dried out. So like this, nice and springy to the touch. If you're buying a whole fish, the eye should be clear and bright, not cloudy, because that also indicates that the fish is old. I'm going to wash my hands again. Now, what we're going to be doing with the tuna is we're going to grill it. And I have a grill pan. I don't know if you can see the grill pan, but it actually has a grid across the bottom. And you can pick these up at any houseware store, just about any houseware store, I'm sure. And the idea with a cast iron pan is that it should not be scoured with a heavy soap. Really, it should be, it's called seasoned, and you put an oil into it, a mineral oil, and heat it up to a very, very high temperature so that the oil burns off of it. And you do that, believe it or not, like 10 times. And it seasons the bottom of the pan. So all we're going to do when we go to cook our tuna is we're going to spray this with some Pam. Cast iron will hold the heat a lot longer than any other kind of pan. So you really have to keep your eye on it so you don't burn whatever's in there. So what we're going to do with our tuna is some rice, white rice. We're going to add some scallions into it and some soy sauce. I have my water in there already. I will be adding some salt. And then we're going to do our spinach at the last minute, because all we're going to do with that is toss it into another saute pan. You can use any kind of liquid. You could use a little bit of oil. You could use a little bit of chicken broth or vegetable broth. And we call it wilted spinach, and that's exactly what it's going to do. It's going to shrink down. So when you get your spinach, it might look like it's a whole lot, but really spinach reduces by half at least. So keep that in mind too when you're ready to put it into the pan. You want to make sure you have enough. I'm going to move my ginger out of the way and my fortune cookies. We don't want to bump those. They're the best part of the meal, the dessert, or the favorite part anyway. Now we will be moving this out so I can show you spinach, fresh spinach. When you get fresh spinach, I've already rinsed this quite a few times, but you have to be careful because spinach grows in a very, very black, silty kind of soil. So you might very well get very, very large chunks of this very, very black dirt in here. So you want to make sure that you wash it very well, because when you bite into it, if it's still in there, it's like chewing on sand grains. Then what you want to do is take your spinach leaf and just pull the stem off. It's a time-consuming kind of a project, but there's nothing better, really, than fresh spinach. It has a much, much better flavor than frozen spinach does. And it's prettier. I mean, look at the color green. It's a lot brighter. So we're just going to, and if you have any that are really chewed up looking, you don't really need to use those. But make sure you get that stem out, because that's also a little tough. That's a little ugly. And this is going to end up being about maybe that big when it comes out of the pan. So that's why it looks like I have an awful lot for 2 or 3 people, but it's really not that much. You can put nutmeg with spinach, and it gives it a very, very nice flavor. Saute it in a little bit of olive oil, put some salt and pepper and some nutmeg on it, and it's really yummy. But we're just going to do it as is, because we're going to have a lot of ginger flavor coming from the fish, from our butter. And you could even throw a little bit of your compound butter on top of the spinach when you put it on the plate. The thing is, too, though, you don't want everything on your plate to taste the same. So if you're worried because it's a plain vegetable and people always, oh, here's a piece with all that black silt on it that I didn't get, so we'll just get him out of the way. Ooh, muddy. Where's my towel? Oh, it's under my spinach. Oh, that's good. We'll save that dirty piece. Now I want to make sure it's not on any other piece. Check both sides, because as you can see, the leaves curl up and it can harbor that down in the center. My water's starting to boil for my rice, and I don't know if you remember the mathematical equation for cooking rice, but it's 2 cups of water to 1 cup of uncooked rice should give you 3 cups of cooked rice. So we're going to toss that in now, since our water's going. And we have a little bit of salt, not a whole lot, but a little. We'll dump our rice in, give that a little stir. And I want to turn the heat down. There we go. Get rid of that ugly leaf now. Wipe that up. We're almost done with our spinach. Like I said, it's a little time consuming. You can have the kids do this, though, before you put them to bed, before the dinner party. Let them pick the stems off. And kids can do this. I've done this with some 2- and 3-year-olds that I teach cooking to, and the leaves are perfect. The stems are all in a nice little pile, so you really can have help in the kitchen from your children. There we go. Okay. Now, like I said, this is going to be the last thing we do, because that's only going to take about maybe a minute. And I don't really want to dry this liquid that's on here off, the water that I washed it in, because we want it to be moist when it goes into the pan. So I'm just going to move that out of the way. Our rice is cooking. Now I'm going to start my pan for the tuna. And like I said, I want it to be very, very high. If you're using an aerosol kind of coating, don't, be careful. Remove the pan from the heat when you spray it, because you don't want it to hit the stove and have an explosion. I have that nice little non-aerosol pan, and I'm just going to spray this in here. And you really don't have to worry about the bottom of the pan as much, except for cleanup, because your meat or your fish is not going to touch the bottom of the pan. So you want to make sure you get the spokes, for lack of a better word, coated. So it looks like it's going to be really greasy in there, but it's not, because it's not going to be sitting in that. Now, tuna is also a fish that some people like to eat very rare. The choice is yours. If fish is overcooked, it falls apart. If it's undercooked, it's translucent, and it should be opaque. When this cooks, the juices, when it's nearing the done point, will be a milky white color. Just like if you poke a chicken and the juice comes out and it's still red, you know it's not done. If the juice comes out clear, the chicken's done. Well, with fish, if the liquid comes out a milky white color, then you know your fish is done. Let me clean up my spinach mess. And this is actually a very, very quick meal because tuna, like most fish, don't really take too long to cook. So while my pan heats up, I think we're going to take a really short break and then we'll be right back.
They've given our generation a label, X, generation nothing. They say we have no sense of purpose. They say we have no cause to believe in. Who are they? Join the thousands of us who are making a difference and wear a label that does mean something.
Hi, we're back. We're getting ready to put our tuna steaks into the pan. As you can see, it's really hot, and this is what you want it to do. You want it to start to smoke. That's why you know that it's getting to be the right temperature. Now, I want to put a little bit of pepper on my tuna, and not much pepper, and a little bit of salt. Not a whole lot, because it is fish. Fish can be salty, but you do want to salt it a little. And then we're going to take the seasoned side and we're going to put it down in the pan. And I'll put this side. Now, fish cut this way is only going to take about 4 minutes on each side. Like I said before we went to break, you can have it rare if you'd like. Some people like to eat it that way. I don't care for it that way. But it's not going to take very long at all. So we're going to put that on there. Our other pan is starting to heat up. So we're going to toss our spinach in just like it is because it has water on it and it will help to wilt it. So we're going to put a little salt on that too, about a teaspoon. And now our rice is getting close to being ready. When that's done, we're going to put some soy sauce into it, not a whole lot because that's also very salty, and we've added a little bit of salt to the water, and we don't want the rice to really look dark or black. We just want it to impart a little bit of flavor. And then we're also going to put some scallions in our rice. So I'm going to cut those, and then we're going to use that orange that we took the zest from as a little bit of garnish for our plate today. Like I said, this is a meal more for adults than for children, so we want it to be a little fancy. You can hear our tuna going to town. And if you can watch this while you're cooking it, you'll see it start to change color. This tuna is has almost a reddish color to the flesh, and it will start to whiten up just like raw chicken does when it's cooking. So that's how you know how the temperature is coming through and it's starting to cook through the middle. It's not close to being done though, so we'll let that go again. I'm going to rinse this real quick. And then you can do, I'm going to try to find a piece that still looks kind of pretty. I'm going to cut some orange wheels. You can use lemon too, but since we have orange zest on our butter, we're going to use the orange. And then you want to just cut a little slit into them so that we're going to use it like that on our plate. And this is the kind of dinner that once it starts to go, everything starts to happen at once. Our spinach is actually wilted already. And I don't know if you can tell, but this is what that whole panful made. It's one serving. So, but it's enough to show you. So we're going to get the plate and get that on the plate and off the hot pan. We're going to lay that there. We'll get rid of the pan without melting the handles. And now we have our lovely little scallion brushes that we made. I made a couple when you weren't watching. And we're going to put that there, and we will put our scallion brush. And you can put one on either side, one on both sides. Pardon my fingers, but I'm going to spread my spinach out. Let's move that out of the way. And now, get my tongs. And depending on how firm the tuna is, you may want to use a spatula or tongs and, I'm going to turn it sideways before I turn it over so that we get those nice grill marks on here. We'll let that go for 1 minute. Let's check our rice. We had taken this off the heat. And now, there's a little bit of liquid in here, but I think it's all right. We are going to toss our scallions right into there. And then you can add a little soy sauce. You don't have to if you don't want to. Like I said, it's a little bit salty, so either lighten up on the salt while you're cooking the rice, or lighten up on the soy sauce. There we go. Now we will move this out of the way for a minute. Flip this over. And our fish is just about done. I don't know if you can catch that, but see how it's starting to move? The heat's coming through. We'll let that go for a minute. And bottom, top. I'm going to put my rice on the plate. There we go. And now we need our butter, which I got from my helper. And we're going to cut through this. And if you can see that, I don't know if you can, it's encased with the orange zest, minced ginger, and scallions. And now we'll take this tuna, since he's the most finished looking. We're going to lay him on our bed of spinach. Prop that up a little bit. We're going to take our butter, and this will, because of the heat of the fish, will melt in. So we have our tuna steak that was grilled. We're topping it with butter with minced ginger, minced scallion, orange zest. We have some white rice that we've added a little bit of soy sauce to with some scallions, and we have a scallion brush. We have spinach underneath, which we've just wilted down in the pan. And now for dessert, we have our chocolate-dipped fortune cookie, which is still a little chocolatey, my sherbet, and you can just stick this right in to your orange sherbet. And as you can see, this is a meal that you can make. We'll see you next time. For North Penn Television, I'm Cynthia Wood.